Okay, so what's going on here is we're saying when this variable, which is a container of information, we're using this to hold the information of numbers. When this variable is equal to 4, we want this to play the animation, uh, a random animation 4, right? By default, the variable is set to 0. So if I preview, I'll click preview. We just see our idle animation because this is the animation that plays. Just because that's the first animation, our variable is set to, currently our variable is set to 0. So that's why we're not seeing the random animation. Okay, there's a lot of different things that you can do in Gdevelop using variables. However, one of the things that can be frustrating is if you don't know what the variable is saying at a particular time, that can be difficult. So we're going to set it up so you can see the variable that you're working with. So for instance, I told you the variable is equal to 0. And when this changes to 4, we'll see this random pose, but you can't, there's no way of knowing that really. So we're going to set it up so you can do that. So how we're going to do that is we're going to go to this, add a new empty event. We'll click the plus button here. Okay, so we're going to go back to our new scene. And then what we're going to do is we are going to add in another object. We're going to click plus, and we're going to add in a text object. So we have this object name here. We're going to name this text. For the size of the object, we're going to change this to 150. And then as this is, we're going to click apply. We'll left click on the text. It's highlighted blue. Now we'll left click and hold and drag this out. So here's our text right here. Then I'm going to left click to go off of that text. Okay, so why do we have the text here? The text is going to make things easier for us to work with the variable, as we'll have an idea of what's going on with that variable as we work through this tutorial. Okay, to set this up, we're going to go to New Scene Events. I want to give credit to Sparkman. He's a YouTuber who has a bunch of different tutorials on his YouTube channel. One of the subjects he deals with is Gdevelop. I learned how to do, as far as setting up the text, I learned how to do this from him. So if you want to learn more about this, I recommend you go check out Sparkman's YouTube channel. Okay, I told you that as far as conditions, that the condition says when something happens, the action says what to happen. We want to leave this condition blank in this case because we want this action to happen continuously. So what we're going to do is click Add Action. We're going to look for Text Object. So here's the text object. We're going to left click there. We're going to go down to where we see Modify the Text. So we're going to left click there. We're going to select our object, and we named our text object text. So we're going to click that. For the modifications sign, we're going to click here, set this to equal. And then for the text, we're going to click on this blue button. We're going to click on Common Expressions for all objects, variables, objects variable. We're going to click Object. Even though we're working with the text object, we want to have the text display the variable of the player. The purpose of working with this text to show the variable is so that we can see what the object the variable that controls our is going to control our random poses. That variable is on the player. So with that being said, we're going to left click on the player. So now for the variable, we're going to click here. This is the variable on the player. So we're going to left click here. Then we're going to click Done. And now with that done, I just left click to deselect that. Then we're going to click OK. Okay, with that done, I'm going to click on our preview button. You can see that our variable is currently set to 0, so this is useful. So I'm going to click the X button to get out of this preview. Okay, one of the nice things in Gdevelop is we can make use of its copying as well as its pasting feature. So I'm going to left click here. When I left clicked here, it's important where I clicked. I clicked here So we have this blue highlight underneath the condition as well as the action. See that line right there? Because that line is there, now we can click this plus button. So there's going to be a random pose 3, random pose 2, random pose 1. So when I say right now this is currently empty, however, this is set up so that we'll be able to copy and then paste this event just to make things faster as well as easier for ourselves. Okay, so we're gonna, with this highlighted, this blue going underneath both the condition as well as the action, we're gonna right click on copy, left click here, so we have this highlighted blue underneath here. We're gonna right click, select paste. We're gonna do the same thing again, paste, do the same thing again, paste. So I've right clicked and then left click to paste. Okay, with that set up, that saves us some time because now we can click here. We don't even have to, we could double click and go into the deeper version of the settings. However, we can just come here, change this to what we need, which is 3. Click here, we'll change this to 2. We'll click here, we will change this to 1. By the way, the order that I have these set up doesn't need to be in this order. That's just me choosing to do things that way, just in case you were wondering. So now we're going to just change this to match the number there. So we'll change this to 2, since on the other side there's 2. We'll click this and change this to 1. We have these things set up now. Let's set up so our character can move. So to do that, we're going to click Add Condition. We're going to go to Keyboard. We're going to select Key Pressed. And for this, we're going to click here. I'm going to hold Shift and then press R. Type in right. So I'm going to left click on right. And it's important that this doesn't say invert the condition here. This should look how it is here. Sometimes I'll hit this by accident. So this is how things should look. I'll click OK. So the condition says when you press the right button, do something. So now we need to set up what's done. So we're going to click Add Action. We're going to look for Platform Behavior. And we're going to go to Controls. And we want to select Simulate Right Key Press. We want this done for the player, so then we'll click OK. Okay, when you're programming things, most of the time you have to tell whatever you're programming almost exactly what to do. Gdevelop makes things easier for us than that. However, we still need to tell it what to do. And the reason why I'm mentioning that is we need to tell Gdevelop when to flip our character sprite. So what we're going to do is we're going to click another action. So we're going to click Add Action. We're going to go to Sprite. We're going to go to Effects. Then we're going to go to where we see this flip the object horizontally. We're going to left click there. We're going to select Player. And then what we want to do is we're going to select No for flipping. So when our character is facing to the right, it'll move without flipping since it's already pointed to the right. Okay, now we need to set things up so that when we press the right key that that Gdevelop knows that we want the walking animation to show. So we'll click Add Action. We'll go to Sprite, Animations and Images. We'll then go down to change the animation by name. We'll click the player since that's what we're working on. Since this is a name that we chose to make, we're going to put quotations around it. So I'm going to hold Shift, put quotation. The name of the animation was walking. I'm going to hold Shift, put quotation. Then with that done, I'm going to click OK. Okay, we need to make sure that when we're pressing right, the Gdevelop knows we don't want to have a random pose animation show. So the way we can do that is by having our variable be equal to 0. So I'm going to click Add Action. I'm going to go to Common Expressions for All, go down to Variables. I'm going to select Modify a Variable of an Object. I'm going to select the player. I'm going to click here, select the variable that we're working with. We're going to click Equal. and we want to make this setting be 0. So then we're going to click OK. Okay, now what's cool is we did all this work for here. We can copy this for when we press the left control key. So we're going to go to where we have this all highlighted blue. See, it's blue there, blue here, right? We're going to right click, select copy, left click, so this is highlighted blue, right click, select paste.